nothing hugely eventful this week. So
yeah,
for a change, we're winding down, and we're heading into March.
Yeah,
which is always an uneventful month. We are going to probably have a week off when April rolls around. I'm taking the family to New York for spring break.
Finally going to New York.
Finally going to New York.
It's been a while for you, haven't it?
I have not been to New York in.
I remember when Christy was there. She was working on that. She was working
that
on
was
that
Seymour
Castle film.
You know, it was the Tom DiCillo film.
That's what I'm thinking.
Tom DiCillo film.
Yeah.
It was Tom DiCillo film that she was working on. She was hired by the production company, and I just spent her per diem for 2 weeks. I did the podcast from there with Mark remotely.
Oh yes,
we did a thing. Anybody who's listened to the podcast for that long would remember that probably. But that was. I went once since. I went to a marriage since, but I went a wedding in a cemetery, and that was which is funny because the wedding in the cemetery, the friends of ours who got married in the cemetery, they now have 2 little girls who bookend my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So
one in front and one after.
Yeah, one in front and one after. So we're gonna see them, and the girls are gonna play and all that stuff. But it's gonna be fun. We're gonna see a show or do whatever. Go to the Statue of Liberty. And my daughter has had all of these New York units in elementary school, and she's seen pictures. So it's going to be very exciting. It'll be her first time.
Fun.
Yeah, it'll be good. So
particularly that time of the year.
But yes, it will. It's a good time of year. It'll be the spring. But otherwise, we're going to have the show back on its feet now. I'm hopefully not going to have any coughing attacks or any more health issues.
We have to start properly tweeting.
Yeah.
I have a Twitter account. Tim
we have one for the show.
We have to start
DigiGods and DigiGods.
We have to do the tweeting thing. Now, what about Instagram? Are we doing the Instagram?
No.
Yeah, I've got an Instagram on my own. But I don't.
Should we have one?
Well, I'm almost all the kids. All the kids.
There's my lingering cough.
All the kids, and I'm, my little goddaughter in there, and she's just always, because she's like, whenever she says, what's that thing you're doing? And I tell her about the thing I'm doing. What's the Instagram account? That's no matter what. What's the Instagram account? And if I don't have an Instagram account for it, she immediately
doesn't exist.
Doesn't matter what the hell it is. If there's not an Instagram connection.
I do notice that more and more people on Facebook are in their 50s and 60s.
Yeah. And my niece Cameron, who's younger than Cy, doesn't even have a Facebook account and never has.
You know what's going to happen? We are going to get Instagram accounts, and then the kids will say,
TikTok.
Yeah,
we were just talking about that TikTok.
Yeah, off it goes.
Anyway, we got to do it.
Facebook us or email us at gods@digigods.com and let us know. Should we do an Instagram account? What do we take pictures of? I don't know what we take pictures of. Okay.
I always take pictures of my feet at screenings.
Yeah, I love that you do that, though. I think that's fun.
That's the dumbest thing.
I think that's fun. No, it's good. It's good. So I'm going to hit some PBS stuff here. We have a great lineup of some PBS titles that fans of public television and all the great documentaries and product thereof will probably appreciate. One of them actually hits somewhat close to home in certain ways. Fire in Paradise, Inside the Deadliest and Most Destructive Fire in California History, is a Frontline documentary, and man, Frontline
It was only a couple of years ago.
This is a year ago.
Yeah.
This is a little over a year ago. This is the November campfire in 2018. And which wound up destroying 30,000 homes and killing nearly 100 people, and it was just absolutely a disaster up in Northern California. And I, of course, experienced the Woolsey fire firsthand, which overlapped with the campfire and was bad in large part because so much personnel was in the north already fighting the campfire, and we didn't have enough people at the spur of the moment to deal with Woolsey when it came blowing through. And I've lived through a lot of brush fires. I live in brush fire territory, so this I relate to a lot of this too, and a lot of the issues discussed herein. It's a tough watch if you've been through any of this stuff, but it is a superb documentary. It's only an hour long, so it moves like a freight train, hits all the relevant points, and doesn't really come up with a lot of answers. But boy, they really did a fantastic job on this. It's superb. Another excellent job by Frontline. On a lighter note, an installment of Nature, Bears.
Oh.
Aw, this is all about the Bears and not the football team. This is a look at all the different varieties of bear and what they mean to us as people. You forget we've got a lot of bears in literature.
Yeah.
Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on and on and on and on.
Yeah,
Bears
Pooh
are
and
all Winnie
yeah.
the Pooh. Bears are a big deal to people, and this goes into that. Why do they stir our imagination, and what is their ecological role, and all that stuff? And it's really sweet. You realize it takes you sort of into the community of a bear. You know how they are in their families and in their communities, and it's really interesting. Different varieties of bears. Some are a little more hostile than others.
When we were kids, what was it? Gentle Ben.
Gentle Ben.
That was the thing, right?
Yes.
And
starring Clint Howard
Clint
before he
Howard.
turned
Yeah,
into a
with a
really
little-
weird-looking
little-
grown-up.
Yeah, little boy.
Yeah.
And
Ron Howard's brother.
I can't think of an equivalent. In the ensuing decades of
We had a lot of that stuff. The kid because
we had the Clarence the Cross-Eyed Lion.
yes, we had
Doctari is what
was
that was.
Doctari? What was the dolphin one?
Oh, Flipper.
Flipper.
Yeah, I
right?
can't think of equivalents in the last 20 years, 30
There
years
isn't?
of that. Wow,
It'd be nice to have one again, wouldn't it?
the bizarre little things that
I
the way
know.
the zeitgeist changes,
Yeah.
and you don't even realize it happened. Cannot
Yeah.
think of that at all.
Yeah,
Wow.
Born Free,
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah, we had a
Yeah.
lot of that. That was a big hit.
I know. It's crazy. Well, Rise of the Mammals, an episode of Nova, is also really super cool. This is a thing a lot of people don't realize. There were mammals that lived at the same time as dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, like-
pterodactyl was a mammal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there were actual, but I mean there were like no mammals. They were
Yeah.
like little warm-blooded,
Furry, walking
live
around on
birth-giving mammals.
on the crane. Yeah.
Yeah, but they were a minor species on the planet. They were just surrounded by giant dinosaurs. So when the dinosaurs went away, the mammals took over. And this is all about that. This is all about the emergence of mammals as the predominant kingdom, as the predominant, not even a kingdom, but the predominant species on the earth and all that stuff. So it's really very interesting, and gets into all kinds of paleontological and zoological stuff, and they've got some really great researchers and fun artifacts. It's really terrific. It's really good. Nova, Rise of the Mammals. Yay us, we're mammals. Another
Dolphins.
got a couple other Novas here. The Look Who's Driving is really kind of a little daunting. This is all about the whole idea of autonomous vehicles and the technology that drives them. And is this something we really want in the world? And I know it's inevitable, but I'd rather it not happen while I'm alive. It's pretty creepy. But anyway, this does talk about all the technology involved and the research that they're doing and what the hurdles are, and it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. The thing that's scary is you look at the technology here that they talk about, and you go, "Wow, that's amazing," and then you think, "Ooh, but what if it fails?"
Yeah,
Because it's gonna fail.
Yeah, and
Like-
frankly, we already know what happens when it fails. It fails a lot.
Like I love the technology that we use to record this podcast, but there have been days when I've gone, uh-oh. And
It crashed 20 minutes ago.
and there was one where it's like, oh crap, how do I get that back? Like we literally
Yeah.
almost lost a show, and I had to go digging around for temp files to resurrect a show. Imagine you're just sitting in the back seat of a car, you're tweeting or reading the news or doing whatever, and the car's just zipping through traffic, and then all of a sudden the car's computer crashes or it loses an internet connection or something, and you go, "Bzzz." Now what? How are you going to get to work?
How are you going to avoid that other car that's coming? There
Yeah.
was one of those vehicles that hit a human with a bicycle
Yeah.
crossing. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's got cameras all over. It's got sensors, and it had another human in the vehicle, and it still hit the lady with the bike.
True.
So you know what? Nah. We're good.
Another Nova. Why bridges collapse?
That's a great one. I've seen that one. It's fantastic. It has that image of that bridge from 19 whatever the hell it was. That's doing
the flip waving around.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's crazy. Bridge technology is ancient. I mean, there are bridges as old as humanity. As long as if an army needed to cross a river, they found a way to build a bridge. But this begins with the collapse of that bridge in Genoa, Italy, in 2018, which killed several dozen people. And they use that as kind of the launching point to get into the subject of bridges that may be aging, that are part of the infrastructure problem here. And why do some bridges collapse and others not? And what's involved in the engineering and in the aging? And it's quite interesting. Both of my uncles were civic engineers, and could give you chapter and verse on all this stuff. And it's really, really interesting. And some of it's a little scary. Last novel we've got here is Dead Sea Scroll Detectives. I love the subject of the Dead Sea Scrolls. I think it's just absolutely fascinating that in 1947, this Bedouin shepherd kid wanders into a cave and changes our understanding of religious history for 2,000 years. Who knows what's sitting around in a cave somewhere even today? Yeah. We're not that far past it. If something could take 1,947 years to be discovered, I guarantee you there's something somewhere in a cave that we still haven't discovered.
No, it always blows me away about how many cuneiform tablets they had found and kind of destroyed before they realized, you know what? I think that's those things.
I think that's important.
That's a book. I think that's a book. How many of those have we thrown away?
Oh man. Well, what's really upsetting here is that a lot of the scrolls they obviously were in very fragile shape when they found them, and they've done their best to preserve them, but a lot of them haven't survived the time. I mean, we got them out of the jars, and now they're kind of a mystery. So now they're trying to use technology to take those scrolls that may have not survived so well, and to see if we can infrared and ultrasound our way to maybe figuring out what was on them, and see if there's anything relevant. And it's all really interesting. Fascinating stuff. So a lot of technology involved in that as well. A couple of installments of Nature. There is Nature's Biggest Beasts and Okavango, River of Dreams. A lot of cool African stuff here and more. Nature's Biggest Beasts is all about just being a big, imposing and intimidating animal. And that takes a lot of different forms in this thing. I mean, it's everything from like the Komodo dragon, which is technically the largest lizard, to whales, to everything else. It's quite interesting. This is a co-production between 13 Productions, BBC Studios, and WNET. And it's a lot of fun. Giraffes and everything else, elephants. Okavango, River of Dreams, is all about a river in southern Africa. The source of it is in Angola, and it's a really, really fascinating river. It's not one of the most famous rivers necessarily in the world. Most people don't think about the Okavango, but it is fascinating in the sense that it is kind of like an artery that supports so many different ecosystems and animal populations. It may be the most important river in the world. And it's kind of a metaphor in many respects for a lot of things, ecological and even sociological. And it's really interesting. This is actually a 3-part series. It's narrated by F. Murray Abraham. And it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Okavango, River of Dreams. It's nearly 3 hours long and worth every single second of it. Got another Frontline here. In the Age of AI, which is obviously talking about artificial intelligence and where it's going to take us. And we're talking about it a lot more now that we have actual AI, rudimentary AI, running all kinds of things in our lives. We've got, iRobots running around cleaning the house, and we've got, here's what my daughter likes to do. She likes to ask Google questions. Hey, Google, and then she'll ask it a question. And then, to make sure Google's not lying to her, she will ask Siri the same question.
I got to tell you, that's brilliant.
Yes.
Double and cross-check. When she starts triple-checking, she'll be ready for journalism school.
That's Alexa.
Yeah.
Alexa will be. We don't have Alexa in the house.
Not yet.
Not yet, but we got Google and Siri. Anyway, that's the world that our kids are growing up in. And
check everything. Fact-checked every damn thing. Good work, kid. What's amazing is that she knows that this is a necessary thing to do. Yeah. She knows. You know what? You got to ask a couple of people. You can't believe everything they say.
I'll tell you, it's really interesting. I mean, AI is where it's at. It's going to be the future. It's a little scary. It goes along with the automatic car deal, autonomous car. But man, there it is. And a little bit of a gear change. Rothko Pictures Must Be Miraculous from American Masters is all about Mark Rothko, the famous abstract expressionist painter who changed everything in that particular world. His work is highly in demand today. They're every time one of his shows up at an auction, it just sets a new record, and it's really interesting. And what an interesting guy, fascinating. The life stories and the processes of great artists always fascinates me. And they get some first-hand interviews with his kids in this one, and it's really quite cool. They also talk about the play Red, in which Alfred Molina won a Tony for playing Rothko, and it's all good. And then lastly, season 2 of No Passport Required with Marcus Samuelsson, which is just a whole lot of fun. It's a 6-part series that goes all over the United States to just look at food and culture and all the different corners of the United States that just have different ways of integrating their historical cuisines and immigrant cuisines, and it's really great. It's a lot of fun. You just never know what kind of food and culture you're going to find in what corner of the country, and it's always surprising. And it does, in these very divisive times, it makes you realize that we really are one country, but we're a lot of moving pieces to one country, and it's really, really great. So there's that on all of that from PBS.
Do some of these old movies?
Yeah, let's do some old movies.
Not all that old, but
classic library titles.
Library titles. It always bugs me a little bit when we call these movies old.
Because they don't feel that old.
Because I remember seeing this movie. I remember how much the ticket cost. To this movie, for instance, When a Stranger Calls, 1979, Fred Walton film with Carol Kane and Charles Durning. A really neat little sort of film, coming in the midst of a whole bunch of films like this, sort of stalker films, in the late 70s, early 80s. This is a part of the is this that Mill Creek series?
Yeah, that's the Mill Creek stuff.
That Mill Creek series, the great boxes.
There's one from VHS. There's the MVD Rewind series, and then there's this Mill Creek series, and they're easy to but those
they have with the rewind with the thing with the little boxes.
They all basically give you the old VHS artwork, and they're comparable,
which is wicked cool. Yeah. Love this movie, straight up stalker film. This is Scream before Scream.
Yeah.
Carol Kane, teenager, she gets a phone call. This is the film where that refrain that I know he's in the house.
Yeah.
This is the film where that comes from. So it's really kind of neat. Love Carol Kane back in the day. The wonderful Charles Durning in the film too. No special features per se, but a neat movie from really great sort of blast from the past. You and I were both at the junket for Hudson Hawk.
Yes.
1991.
Yes.
Bruce Willis film. The film did not fare well. Bruce was surly.
Bruce was quite surly
that day.
Yeah. I remember here's the one question that I remember so well, that somehow at our table the conversation, and I love the film, by the way.
I had fun with this movie.
Danny Aiello, who
Bruce
just
Willis,
recently
they're singing
passed.
these sort of classic songs.
I just think it's a fun film. It's
Richard
a really
E. Grant,
fun film.
Sandra Bernhard.
Oh yeah, it's a bunny, ball. It's a funny film. It's a silly film, but I
the
remember
dog goes out the window. That's hysterical.
I was one of the few who really loved this movie and has defended it ever since. You know, Michael Reschaffen and I in 2005 were recruited to do a video. This is when I was actually in New York when Christy was on that Tom DiCillo film. They recruited. They wanted to do a featurette for the release of Hudson Hawk, a special edition on DVD. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to do a special edition release that had a featurette of critics arguing about the movie. And it was all set up. Michael Reschaffen was going to be the critic who hated it, and I was the guy who was defending it. And they really had to search. And Michael's like, I'll bet Wade liked it, because he knew. And he recommended it. I'm like, yeah, I love that movie. They're like, would you do it? I'm like, totally. And they had it set up. There was a date and a time, and a camera crew was going to come, and I was going to meet them in this room at Lincoln Center. and so they'd hooked it up, you know. I'm like, I'm in New York. They're like, not a problem. We'll do it. And it was all set up, and like 3 days before, they pulled the plug. I don't know why.
Did they pull on the whole thing?
They pulled the plug.
Did they even do the release?
They did the release. They did the release, but they pulled the plug on the idea of that extra. They figured, why would we spend money having two guys argue about whether the movie's any good or not? And I thought, oh, that's such a mistake.
Yeah.
It's such a mistake. Fun. Because I would have made a really good case for the film.
Yeah.
I would have made it. I mean, people would have said, I like that guy. But in any case, I remember the one conversation with Bruce Willis at that junket at our table was somehow it turned to his weight and his weight loss, because he was looking all kind of cut, and he'd been a little bit overweight. He'd let himself go for a minute, you know, the year before. And I remember somebody at the table said to him, and this is sad that this is the only thing I remember from the Hudson Hawk junket, but I remember one other thing. But the one thing I remember from our table was that somebody said to him, they said, so, you know, what's the secret then to losing weight? And Bruce looked at the guy and he goes, stop eating so much. That's it. He goes, stop eating so much. That's how I did it. I just stopped eating. Stopped being a pig.
Asshole.
And the only other thing I remember from that junket was wherever Danny Aiello was, people were having a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Danny was telling stories and slapping, and Danny did. Well, for one thing, Danny didn't give a damn.
Yeah.
Danny never gave a damn about what any of us thought about any film he was in, about his performance, or anything. Danny didn't give a damb. That was great about him. Bruce Lehman film.
Yeah.
All right.
Michael
Lehman film.
Yeah.
Michael Lehman film. Do you know him?
He's a UCLA grad.
Yeah, I knew that.
And he came and talked to one of my classes, my editing class at UCLA.
Because he would have been a little ahead of us. Michael's about 10 years older than us.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's a nice guy.
Yeah,
you know, nice guy.
Well, hell of a career. You would have thought that California House of Lies. Currently, he's knocking out episodes of 68 Whiskey. Which is that new going to be, it's not out yet, show that's set in the Middle East doing the Irish. So Mike, hanging around. Lots of snowfalls, that John Singleton show.
Yeah.
Lots of those. So Michael, holding it down, keeping it going. Interesting. I mentioned that because, way back in the day, early 90s, you look at these guys, they make these movies. The movie he made before that, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had like a hit film.
Yeah,
Michael, right before that movie, and then he gets the big studio film, and you think a career is going to happen a certain sort of way.
Yeah,
but it doesn't happen that way.
No.
But you think, oh, well, that guy flopped, he failed, he didn't make it. No, Michael Lehman, he's not missing.
Yeah,
a year.
Nope.
He's not missing a single year of working.
Keep working.
It doesn't make any difference. Heathers.
Yep.
Heathers.
That's right.
Richard Gere and Kim Basinger in No Mercy.
Oh, boy, do I remember this.
Yeah, in 1986.
Yeah.
This film, Richard Pierce film. Look, this is okay. Chicago cops goes down to New Orleans to avenge the death of his partner, gets caught up with these sort of what I think they intended to be sort of like a... the Burt Reynolds and Warren Beatty and all those guys.
Yeah.
Kind of thing going on there, and then get caught up with the Kim Basinger and all that. These movies were, stock and trade back in the day. Interesting to me, most of these movies could not be made and released as feature films today, even with major movie stars. Richard Gere was a big old movie star by then. So was Kim Basinger.
Yeah. The
equivalent of them in this movie today, not going to happen. But I rather enjoyed that movie. Vibes. I really enjoyed this movie. Jeff Goldblum, Cyndi Lauper, a little light film. films like this, Earth Girls Are Easy.
Oh, that was
a whole mess of them.
That was Jim Carrey's first movie.
Yeah, Damon Wayans in that movie,
right.
bouncing around these movies. Fun to a certain extent. This movie is, if I'm not mistaken, directed by Ken Kawapis.
Yeah.
This was directed by Ken Kawapis,
Yeah.
right? Who later would be married to Marissa Silver, and they directed that movie.
Right.
He Said Sisha with I think Kevin Bacon.
Oh my goodness.
And everything. So it's an interesting thing. When I look at
because
I did the junket for that film.
Yeah.
And I went and looked up Marissa. Almost nothing.
Wow.
Almost nothing.
Weird.
In her career, kind of like it was what's his name who was married to the Goldie Hawn. They made the Goldie Hawn film. Where Private Benjamin.
Yeah. Charles Shire and Nancy Myers.
And they had this little thing for a while.
Until they got divorced because he was sleeping with the assistant.
Now, Nancy's career is the one
that took off.
And Charles does what he does. He's okay. He's fine.
Yeah.
But Nancy's career is the one that went. So interesting sort of, when that sort of happens there. Anyway, Vibes was a lot of fun. Cyndi Lauper sort of making her quasi-cinematic debut. She had been in a few other things. Body Parts. You remember this movie, 1999?
I do.
Look, Jeff Fahey. I know Jeff. Jeff's a cool guy. Hangs around with Sherm a lot over there, and he had a hell of a little career there for Lawnmower Man.
Yeah,
and all of that stuff. This was. Okay. Special features include an audio commentary with Eric Red. Eric, who directed this film.
Yeah.
And he's an interesting fella, too, actually. Talking to him there for a while. Let's Scare Jessica to Death. Man.
Oh, I remember this so well.
For John D. Hancock film.
Yeah.
1971. This was just simply, again, this was a period when this sort of movie was being made. There were a whole bunch of these, and they sort of float around. Some of them were straight up horror. So you got your Carries, and you got your Eyes of Laura Mars, and the house at the end of the hill, and all the haunted hill, and all that kind of stuff. Just Let's Scare Jessica to Death was ever so slightly more psychological.
Yeah.
There was nothing really supernatural going on in this movie, but you felt like you were watching a supernatural thriller as you watch this film. Full of special features here, audio commentaries with director John Hancock and the producer, interviews with the composer, interviews with film historian Kim Newman. There's a location featurette. Really, really neat stuff. The radio spots. Let's Scare Jessica to Death. That was not bad at all. You want to knock a few off over there?
Yeah, let me. I'll hit off a few of the Arrow library. Got a great old film noir, Black Angel. What a fun movie this is. Black Angel, one of the great film noirs of the era. This is kind of a lot of the noirs kind of fall between the cracks. But of all the 40s noirs, this one is one of the best, and it's well worth rediscovering. So I'm thrilled that Arrow Academy is putting it out. It stars Dan Duryea, June Vincent, and Peter Lorre. Oh, Peter Lorre, directed by Roy William Neal, who of course did tons of Sherlock Holmes films with Basil Rathbone. And just a real workmanlike director, and this is terrific. This is basically about a woman who's killed in her apartment, like a torch song, singer at a nightclub, and all the guys, suddenly all the men in her life are now potential suspects, and it's really, really interesting. The Peter Lorre is terrific. He plays like the slimy guy who owns the nightclub, and which is just perfect for him. And it's just it's a lot of fun. It's really a smart script and a lot of fun to watch. Beautiful transfer. Arrow did a great job on it. There's an audio commentary by the film scholar Alan K. Rode, writer and film scholar, and then a really interesting video appreciation is what they call it, A Fitting End by film historian Neil Sinyard. So and promotional materials and all kinds of stuff on there too. Also from Arrow Academy is Manon by Henri-Georges Clouzot, who we talked about last week, the great French filmmaker. This is not to be confused with Manon des Sources or Manon of the Spring, the Michel Pagnol stuff or Marcel Pagnol stuff. This is not at all that same Manon. I want people to be very clear on that. This is from a 1731 novel called Manon Lescaut, which is in this case is taken out of its 18th century setting and it's transposed to World War II. And and that's a really interesting choice because you think how do you take something from the 18th century and you give it a World War II backdrop? There's got to be some thing there, and there is because the original story is pre-Napoleonic. This story is. There are analogies, and I this might give something away, so I'm going to try not to. But there are analogies between pre-Napoleonic France and occupied France, and the issue of collaboration during the World War II period in France has an analogy in the pre-Napoleonic era, in the pre-revolutionary period in France. So that is very, very interesting, that juxtaposition. And then, of course, there's all kinds of really seedy stuff that goes on with this couple who are. I won't give it away, but it's really, really interesting, and it has kind of a Bonnie and Clyde aspect to it that is really worth checking out. I think it's a superb film. It's very unusual for Clouseau, and it is a worthwhile investment to put that into your library. From Arrow Academy, Manon. Also from Arrow proper is Deadly Manor, which is kind of a dumb movie, but it's got a cult following. It's a slasher movie. It's basically a 1990s attempt to resurrect to do a new franchise in the Friday the 13th Halloween vein. Whatever. It's got an audio commentary with Kat Ellinger and Sam Dean, who've been doing a ton of audio commentaries lately. And then there's an interview with the lead actress in it, and some other stuff, and an interview with the producer. And then the most interesting release from Arrow this week are the 3 films in the One Missed Call trilogy. This is a Japanese trilogy that most people have probably only seen 1, maybe 2 of these films. I don't know many people who've seen all 3. Takashi Miike, the incredibly prolific Takashi Miike, Renpei Tsukamoto, and Manabu Aso are the 3 directors responsible for this. And this is the first time that all 3 of these films from that J-horror era that gave us The Grudge and The Ring, Ringu, and all that stuff, this is part of that movement, that moment. And this is the first time that all 3 of these have been available together in a single set, in Blu-ray set. And it's really worth checking out. They are each of the films is unique, and I wouldn't say one is better than the other, but they're all unique in their own way, and they all kind of go together in a very, very interesting way. So definitely check this out. I mean, the whole thing basically is very much in the same vein as Ringu. Except here, people get a phone call from their future self, and then they hear themselves scream while they're dying, and then of course that leads to your own death. And so, how do you when you get that call, it's obviously your death now. Very, very interesting trilogy. Tons and tons of extras. Featurettes and interviews and audio commentaries on here. You could spend hours with this, and you're never going to want to pick up the phone ever again. I guarantee you, it'll be done.
A few more of these.
Yeah.
These particular ones, I believe, are from Shout.
Yes.
I love these movies way back in the day, or I appreciated them anyway. I actually hated Very Bad Things, but I appreciate it because it was just such a terrible movie. For a long time, Very Bad Things was thought of as one of the worst films ever made.
Was it really?
For a very long time. A dark comedy, Very Bad
Things.
Things.
Unfair.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But Peter Berg film. It's just a dark comedy with a young, skinny John Favreau and Cameron Diaz and Christian Slater. Guys go off to Vegas. Blah 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 blah. Now you watch this movie and you ask yourself about those Hangout movies.
The Hangover movies.
The Hangover movies.
Yeah.
Same movie. Relatively speaking.
Yeah, all I remember about this is I just remember Christian Slater holding the chainsaw. Yeah,
the chainsaw.
Yeah.
The sequence that opens this movie is so Me Too wrong today. The thing that happens with the hooker. That is so meaty wrong today that you could never make this movie in 1,000 years, and to my mind, that's not necessarily a bad thing. All kinds of special features on here, including an audio commentary with a couple of film critics and interviews with Jeremy Piven in particular and actor Daniel Stern. What the hell happened to Daniel Stern? You should love Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern, he's around.
Hanging around? I guess so. Yeah, you don't see him as much as you used to. Sliding Doors, Peter Howlett film. Interesting film, this Gwyneth Paltrow film.
Really interesting movie.
From back in 1998.
Yeah.
The idea of this young woman who, if she catches a train, her life will go one way, and she misses a train, her life will go the other way. He shows you what would happen either way and sort of intercuts them together as we see how Gwyneth Paltrow's life would play out. Really lovely film. John Hannah. This is the collector's edition. All kinds of wonderful special features, including an audio commentary with the director, Peter Howlett. So,
there's actually a Krzysztof Kieslowski film that has almost that exact same plot. And I'm slipping on the title.
It's a part of the series of the.
No,
it's not
no.
a part. It's not. When I think of White, it has.
It was made before he made the Decalogue, and obviously before the Three Colors trilogy. But there's a Kieslowski one that goes in a similar direction.
And neat stuff. Pet Sematary 2, the collector's edition. The Pet Sematary, of course, adaptation of the Stephen King film 1989. Pet Sematary 2. 1992. Didn't really need this Pet Sematary 2. That was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Stephen King don't like this movie, and I don't either. So me and Steven, they remade Pet Sematary, the original one, in 2019. This past with Jason, what's his name,
Mm-hmm.
and that movie again also not necessary. And Steven didn't like that one either. Collector's edition of My Bloody Valentine, the classic. My Bloody Valentine. The last two are from Scream, Pet Sematary, and this are from Scream. The good folks over at Scream. 1981, My Bloody Valentine. Again, a staple film in the genre.
Yeah.
From the era of the hack and slash films. What do you
kind of over it, but
I was over it in 1991.
I get the nostalgia.
This is a 4K scan, so that's nice. Radio spots, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My Bloody Valentine.
So a bunch of Criterion stuff here. Got a really great bunch of Criterion titles to effectively start the year. I know we're not at the start of the year; we're in March now, but this is we're catching up a little bit here. Paris is Burning from 1990 was a kind of landmark documentary because it sort of mainstreamed what had been underground for a long time in New York, which was the drag scene among primarily Black and Latino drag queens.
Yeah.
And their clubs and their fashion, their sort of internecine fashion industry, and it. There I am again, still coughing. But all the things that they deal with, what their culture deals with, it gets into this is sort of on 1990. We're still in the AIDS crisis. It's still very, very much a part of what a lot of them are dealing with, and it's really really still a seminal doc. And to look at it, you think, wow, it's so much of that is still quite relevant today. A lot of great extras on here too. There's a fantastic original audio commentary from 2005, and then new conversations with a lot of the people who are depicted in the film. It's really, really quite interesting. And then an episode of the Joan Rivers Show from 1991, which is a pretty fabulous artifact to have dug up. The big deal from Criterion is Roma. This is a big deal because it's the first time that a Netflix movie has allowed itself to become part of the Criterion collection.
Interesting.
And you think, well, Netflix pretty much wants just everything to sort of live on Netflix to force people. But you know what? I think they recognize that Criterion...
Yeah, there's a cachet. Right. Yeah.
It bestows something on you. So this is a very nice custom package with one of the most beautiful images from the film. And it, of course, won for its director, Best Director and Cinematography, Alfonso Cuarón. And it's a beautiful image on the cover, and I am not a huge fan of the film, I will be honest. I think it's got, I think it's slow and a little bit thin, but I am alone in that respect. I recognize it is a beautiful looking film throughout, and I think it is wonderful that it is part of the Criterion collection. I think that's something else was it Marriage Story? Or is it The Irishman? One or both of them are going to be on Criterion as well. I think it's The Irishman.
Yeah, I would almost think both.
Yeah. In any case.
Yeah.
there is now a Netflix Criterion pipeline, which I think is a good thing. I think that's great. It validates both of them. It continues to it tells us that streaming and at least an elite tier of the packaged media world can coexist, and I think that's a wonderful truce. So anyway, they put a great bunch of extras together on this as well. And if you love the movie, you're there. There are documentaries galore on this thing, all about the pre-production, the post-production of it, and how they put it together, the sound. I mean, it's really really impressive how they campaigned, how they marketed the film. So Roma from Criterion, a really really great milestone. Another great custom package release, and they did a really nice job on this package. Three Fantastic Journeys by Karel Zeman. And the journeys are Journey to the Beginning of Time, Invention for Destruction, and The Fabulous Baron Munchausen. This packaging is probably going to disappear at some point. I can't imagine they're going to continue to press this, because it's basically a pop-up. It's got a pop-up book aspect to it. These are movies that were made in between 1955 and 1962 by the very, very talented Czech filmmaker Karel Zeman. Karel Zeman is not a filmmaker that I'm necessarily familiar with, but he was kind of in the vein of Georges Méliès. He was doing things in the 50s and right into the early 60s that were rather extraordinary, especially for European films at the time, but even globally, really, really interesting. And these are fantastic Blu-rays to have. You're really going to discover a filmmaker that many of you didn't know existed before. There are short films of his on here, most of which are from the 1940s, and at least one of which, A Christmas Dream, is amazing. I mean, really amazing. 1945, A Christmas Dream, you've got to see. There's just so much on here, and his impact is undeniable. It's really, really interesting to check these films. He's just a rare kind of filmmaker, and the way that he puts all of this together. There's animation, there's live action. I mean, there's everything. There's surrealism, there's hyperrealism. It's really quite a discovery. So it's terrific to get this. A good box set. Three Fantastic Journeys by Karel Zeman, Zeman. And then the last two Criterions here, Pier Paolo Pasolini's Teorema from 1968. Not one of my favorite films. This has been out on DVD previously, not from the Criterion collection. I come and go on Pasolini. Salo is one of the original Criterion collection releases, and a lot of people hate it. I truly dislike Salo, and I have similar feelings about this one. This is he's just pushing buttons, and I'm not really into it. Terrence Stamp is really good in it, but he's about the only thing that I like in it. He plays kind of this morally ambiguous, possibly supernatural figure. I mean, look, there's a lot going on in here, and probably too much for my taste, but it is well made, and I will give it that. The one that I'm really going to recommend here is Antonio Gaudí. This is by Hiroshi Teshigahara, who is famous for making Woman in the Dunes. This is from 1984. I know you're thinking, Antonio Gaudí, what, a Japanese movie called Antonio Gaudí? That doesn't make sense. He's a famous Spanish architect. Well, this is a Japanese movie all about the famous Spanish or Catalan architect Antoni Gaudí, and really very, very interesting film. It's not a documentary. It's not a narrative film. It's like a personal essay, it's like cinematic poetry. It's a tone poem. It's something that exists in Japanese cinema, but which is not that well known outside of Japan, and it is really a beautiful film. If you've seen Teshigahara's other films, if you've seen Woman in the Dunes, you understand that visual poetry is his thing. His movies are very meditative and very kind of dreamlike, and there's a lot of that here as well. It is incredibly interesting for a film of this type. The filmmaking is on par with the architecture itself, and I don't know how else to describe it. It is a famous film. It is a singular film experience, and you got to check it out. It's really interesting, and if you're not familiar with Gaudí and his architectural work, you will be by the end of this, and you will understand why there is a kind of synchronicity between Gaudí and Teshigahara, that there is something that binds the one in his architecture to the other in his filmmaking. Really superb stuff.
Outstanding. Let's see.
Let's do some new movies.
These are new movies, so to speak. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let me go to the most relevant of the new ones. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I just want to pull it up to the top so I can go ahead and talk about it, because what the hell. Tom Hanks nominated.
Yep.
Not surprised he didn't win per se, but really an inhabiting performance by Tom of the character of Mr. Rogers.
Yep.
The persona of Mr. Rogers. Not one of those sort of imitation things that you get every now and again when somebody's playing someone extremely famous, particularly when the famous person has a very peculiar sort of affect.
Yeah.
As Mr. Rogers did. The beautiful thing about this movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, is that it's not about Mr. Rogers at all. And Mr. Rogers is a conduit to a completely different story, and that's what I think is the genius of this film. It's not a film about.
I said
Mr.
on the radio,
Rogers.
it's Ben-Hur.
Yeah,
Ben-Hur. Mr. Rogers is to this movie as Jesus is to Ben-Hur. It is a figure who is so iconic and so perfect that you can't really generate any drama around them, but you can have them create the gravity for the drama that affects someone else's life.
Yeah,
and that's how I see it. I mean,
and to that extent, like as Jesus is to Spartacus.
Sure.
True. At the end of that movie's really about Jesus.
Yeah,
it's not about Spartacus at all. Special features, all kinds of great stuff, additional scenes, blooper reels. Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers. It's just really, really good. The odd thing about not an odd thing, but a thing that I would have loved about this movie, Matthew Rhys is really, really good in this film.
So good.
But because Tom Hanks is in the film and he's doing that performance, Mr. Rogers and all that, it sort of got overlooked by our award this season and everything. But he's the thing that holds this film together.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, Tom has to be good.
I think people undersold his performance a little bit because yes, he's doing the thing that he did on television in Brothers and Sisters, and he's done in a few movies, and people forget he's Welsh.
Yeah.
When he's playing an American jerk, I know he plays that American jerk really well, and he's done it a lot, but he's Welsh.
Yeah.
Okay. He's really, really stretching. That's not who he is. I mean, he's done British films and period films, and he's very different. So give the dude some credit. He's a really, really good actor. I think he's so good that people take him for granted sometimes.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. This film, Dragonheart Vengeance, which is in the lineage of the Dragonheart films that go all the way back to I don't know what year that film they did with Sean Connery. All the this is the lineage of those films. This one has Helena Bonham Carter in it. Which is a little, I'm like, Helena, what the hell are you doing over here?
Still dragging this out, so to speak.
Yeah, so to speak.
Dragging it out.
Justin would be so proud of you right now. Anyway, think about this. Whatever with the Dragonheart films, CGI not very good in this movie.
No.
If you're going to do one thing correct in one of these movies, get the daggum dragon right.
Yeah.
We've all seen Game of Thrones now.
I know.
So you can't have some big stupid-looking dragon flying around.
Even before Game of Thrones, they had it right. The first Dragonheart didn't even do it right.
The first Dragonheart was actually,
I mean, what they did it right was Reign of Fire. Reign of Fire killed that.
Reign of Fire, and Matthew McConaughey.
Still, one of my favorite theater experiences with you, because that was funny.
Dude, Reign of Fire.
Because I remember when Christian Bale is like hitting away, and this is when he's got the pecs and the muscles working, and he's chipping away in that mine and looking just amazing. And you leaned over to me and you said, "Dude, we got to hit the gym." And then Matthew McConaughey shows up and takes his shirt off, and you leaned over to me and you said, Dude, you, me, and Christian Bale got to hit the gym.
Because that was insane.
It was crazy.
And I love that movie, Dragonheart, too, by the way.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Chadwick Boseman and Sienna Miller in 21 Bridges. Did you see this? I didn't see it.
Yes, I did.
And,
here's my deal on this. I don't know how these movies happen. There was the other one that we had with what's his name, Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
that's very similar to this, which came out about a month before or after, I forget which. And all these are these movies that I look at and I go, this is a straight to video movie with a B-level cast that doesn't deserve to be in theaters, but for the fact that they somehow got these actors to be in this movie.
Yep.
I mean, if you're Chadwick Boseman and you're doing this, I've got to believe the only reason is that you've got a window in your schedule and somebody threw you a giant pile of money to make a really dumb movie.
A ridiculous amount of money. Yeah.
It's not terrible.
No.
He's good in it, but it's a waste of his talent, and it's kind of a waste of everyone's time. As far as I'm concerned, it's pretty generic. This movie comes out 50 times a year, direct to video. It just doesn't have Chadwick Boseman in it.
Well, yeah, back in the day when it starred Bruce Willis, 35 years ago, the cop killers. The cops are going to find the cop killers. Are going to shut down the town, shut down 21 Bridges.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever.
What are you going to do? Frankie. This was a lovely movie that I remember seeing for the show. Lovely film. Brendan Gleeson, Marissa Tomei, Isabelle Huppert at the top of the film. She's playing this actress, and she has this sort of extended family, including an ex-husband and her daughter and her daughter's husband. And Marissa Tomei is roaming around, a friend of hers with Greg Kinnear, her fiance, and all they're really doing is roaming around this beautiful, beautiful Italian village, chit-chatting and talking. The central thing at the center of all of this is the fact that they all know that Isabelle Huppert's character, the sort of grand matriarch of the family, is dying. Yeah. They all know that. She doesn't look like she's dying. She's not dying right then, and that's what I like about this film. The film isn't about the process of dealing with all of that. It's about that sort of psychological and mental process that people go through, as all of these people whose lives she's affected are, sort of coming to grips with the fact that at some point she is sooner rather than later going to pass away. And I rather enjoyed it. Isabelle Huppert, particularly good in the movie. Special features include a Q&A with the director, Ira Sachs, and Isabelle Huppert. Ira directed a lovely little movie a couple of years ago. I wish I could remember the name, but it'll pop up in my head in a second. I'll see if I can remember. A few more over here.
Let me hit off some Kinos. We got a pile of Kinos here, and they're all worth getting to. So here from the Kino Studio Classics line, I'm going to blow through this as efficiently as I possibly can. Room at the Top. You got to get this. This is a must-have Blu-ray from 1959. Maybe the best film that Jack Clayton ever directed. Jack Clayton, famous British director who didn't really have a huge international career, but he may be known to a lot of people here because later in his career he directed Something Wicked This Way Comes, which was the introduction of Jonathan Pryce in movies. Something Wicked This Way Comes, really underrated movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But he got his lone Oscar nomination for Best Director for Room at the Top, which is an angry young man era movie from 1959, starring Lawrence Harvey as a working class guy who marries in order to work his way out of his social strata and winds up falling in love with another woman along the way. It's all about all of those class issues and those working class issues that the Angry Young Men films were doing at the time. Simone Signoret and Lawrence Harvey have just the most sizzling chemistry in this movie. It is absolutely superb, and you really want to check it out. It won 2 Academy Awards for Signoret and for screenwriter Neil Patterson. Did not win one for Jack Clayton, but doesn't matter. Jack Clayton is still a hell of a director. He nails it with this one. It's just a beautiful movie. Fritz Lang. His Hollywood movies are obviously not as interesting as his German Silence, but they're still really, really interesting. And this one is it's really interesting in the context of his career. It's called House by the River. Stars Louis Hayward, Lee Bowman, and Jane Wyatt, of all people. And this is when he was working for Republic Pictures. His career here had kind of gone a little sideways, and he made a surprisingly good little thriller here that is better than what it really should be. It's got all kinds of he's able to introduce all kinds of stylistic things and subtextual things here that are not obviously part of what the original material probably was, but it's a good little kind of quasi-noir-y thriller that has some how would put it veins in it that shouldn't have passed censors at the time, but they did because the censors were just too dense to realize what's really going on. But it's cool. It's got a murder, and it's got some Hitchcockian duplicity and double cross and steamy romance and crisscross and some good stuff going on. So check it out. It's really cool. Written by Mel Donnelly and shot by the famous Edward Kronjaeger, two really, really talented people as well. Has a commentary by Alexandra Heller-Nicholas and an interview with the producer and film historian who recently passed, a fixture at the Cannes Film Festival, Pierre Rission. Yeah. So I've met Pierre. He is missed, but wonderful, wonderful interview there. Also, Ernest Schoedsack's Dr. Cyclops, which is a silly film, but it's fun to discover now because it was so interesting photographed at the time, so aggressive in 1940. This is Schoedsack, of course, of the Schoedsack and Marion C. Cooper team that made King Kong. And this is, experimenting with Technicolor in the early days. 1940 is just a year after Gone with the Wind, and a few years after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and The Adventures of Robin Hood. So we're still really kind of pushing what three-strip Technicolor can do, and they find a really interesting way of using it in a science fiction context here. The story is silly, but the special effects and the cinematography and the photography are really, really cool, and it got an Oscar nomination for its special effects at the time. So but I mean, all the crazy mad scientist stuff, and it doesn't date terribly well. The Oscar. A lot of people really, really hate this movie. I don't hate it. It's cheesy, but it's meant to be cheesy. This is from 1965, and this is oh gosh, how would we even put this? It's meant to be kind of somewhere between Valley of the Dolls and All About Eve.
Yeah.
Is maybe the best way of putting it, and uses Hollywood and the idea of trying to win an Academy Award as kind of a backdrop to it. And it's a really campy cast. I mean, Elke Sommer realizes that she's just playing this high camp. Eleanor Parker as well. Milton Berle, he's just along for the ride. Stephen Boyd just needs to look pretty. And then Tony Bennett and Joseph Cotton and Jill St. John and Ernest Borgnine, and it's just unbelievable. What's really interesting here is how this thing all kind of came together. Everybody else who's involved in this, it's nuts. Harlan Ellison, the science fiction writer who wrote City on the Edge of Forever for Star Trek, co-wrote this. And Percy Faith did the music.
Oh, Percy Faith, yeah.
So, and to really appreciate this, I'm going to tell you right now, you don't want to even watch the movie without a commentary. There are two commentaries on here. There's one with Howard S. Berger and Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, which is very scholarly. Screw it. Listen to the audio commentary with Patton Oswalt, Josh Olson, and Eric Nelson.
Oh, yes.
That's the one you want to listen to.
Yes.
It is fun as hell. And it's what makes this purchase all the worthwhile. It really, just listen to Patton Oswalt go, pull that ripcord. It is great. Perfect Friday with Ursula Andress, Stanley Baker, and David Warner was directed by Peter Hall, the great British stage director, whose daughter Rebecca Hall is, of course, an Oscar nominee and shows up in a lot of good movies now and again here. This is perfectly fine. It is a British film of a certain type from 1970 when a lot of this stuff was being done on television, occasionally spilling over into the movies. And it's sort of about a bank heist, British style, British upper crust style, we could say. And it's not really a heist movie. It's more of a sophisticated thriller, but it is sophisticatedly funny and intermittently very, very clever. Transylvania 65000.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I've gone back and forth on whether or not I like this movie or not.
It depends on.
This is from 1985. I think it dates very poorly, but it's got a certain camp quality that makes it fun. Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr., both very young at the time. Lead a cast of a whole lot of people: John Byner, Jeffrey Jones, Gina Davis. I mean, a lot of people. Carol Kane. It's it's kind of a horror comedy, but it's not Young Frankenstein. It's not anywhere near the league of Young Frankenstein. It seems to think that it is. And if you look closely, you will see a young Michael Richards show up in this thing, kind of just on the eve of when I think he was also in that the what was the dumb comedy that what's his name, who did now I'm drawing a crazy blank, that dumb comedy that Weird Al did.
Weird Al. The stupid comedy. Oh my, no, I'm confusing it with what's his name from Yahoo.
Anyway.
I'm confusing it with Yahoo series.
Yahoo series,
the weird one, the young guy. Yeah.
Well, anyway, Michael Richards, very young at the time. I think this is even pre-Fridays.
FM.
Thank you. Before he did FM. Anyway, so Transylvania 65000, give it a shot. See if you think there's anything worth it in here. I don't think so necessarily. Legal Eagles, totally forgettable movie.
Robert Redford.
Yeah, totally forgettable Ivan Reitman movie after Ghostbusters, where he tried to be a little bit more romantic and legit, and he tried to make a Sidney Pollack movie by putting Robert Redford, Deborah Winger, and Daryl Hannah in a movie about lawyers
and art
and people and and lawyers, and they love and they do law, and then they love and they do law and whatever. It's not really very good, but it's very professionally made. Day of the Dolphin with George C. Scott. Mike Nichols directed this. Isn't that weird?
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that movie forever, but in my mind, if you had asked me who directed it, I wouldn't have said 1973, man.
I mean, it's a weird story. He trains dolphins to talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sci-fi-ish.
Buck Henry. We lost Buck not too long ago.
I know.
Writing Buck Henry.
Shot by Bill Fraker, written by Buck Henry. Georges Delarue did the music. Richard Silbert did the production design. It's like an A team all around. They're all great, and I don't know. It's kind of a weird quasi sci-fi sort of thriller, but not really either. I don't know.
Hey, look, I think I knew Buck Henry wrote that, but it's not a very Buck Henry type movie.
No, it's not. It's not. George C. Scott's really good in it.
Yeah.
And it's right before he kind of. I mean, it's obviously after Strangelove, and it is after Patton. He's won his Oscar for Patton, but man, it's just kind of. Anyway, The Warlord with Charlton Heston, directed by Franklin Schaffner, as long as we're talking about Patton, the director of Patton before he made Patton in 1965, is effectively a medieval drama set in the 11th century about Duke William of Ghent and his knight Chrysagon, played by Charlton Heston. And how they're trying to it's about conflict on the coast of Normandy. And anyway, if you don't know the medieval history behind this, it's probably going to be a little bit hard to sort of figure out what's going on and why anybody cares, and the feudal this and that, and who are Frisians. I don't know why does anybody care about what are they after.
I didn't. Almost nobody in that movie is correctly cast.
But
Richard Boone, for God's sakes, he's a cowboy.
I know.
You can't put him in maelstrom and give him a sword. He's still a cowboy.
Yeah.
James Ferrantino, he's Italian.
I know. It's a silly movie, but you know what? Schaffner.
It's okay. Yeah,
Schaffner gives you some action, and I guess the action keeps it going. Brian Forbes, great action director in his day, did The Whisperers in 1967, which it's an interesting film to watch now, because it's basically about this old woman who is it's like elder abuse, I guess. Basically, it's the story of delusion and elder abuse, and and how this all is able to happen. And when you look at it today, now that elder abuse is a much more mainstream thing and talked about, it's really quite prophetic and prescient in a very disturbing way, and it's unfortunate that is the case. But it's really stylish. Kat Ellinger gives a wonderfully incisive commentary here, and Forbes, who's primarily known more for sort of actiony, espionage-y stuff, does a really good job. Last three, real quickly. Arthur Hiller, who made just tons of bad movies, doesn't do too badly with Tobruk, which, of course, was all about the Battle of Tobruk in World War II. There's nothing else going on here. Rock Hudson and George Papard and Guy Stockwell all get to act real macho and tough and do the war thing. And, it's not like a modern war picture, but it's serviceable, and the history is interesting. And there's a decent commentary on here. Steve Mitchell and Stephen J. Rubin. Ulzana's Raid is a Burt Lancaster Western from 1972, kind of the era when Westerns are getting a little grungier and dirtier. It's not great, but it's serviceable. Lancaster he's getting older and he kind of walks through it, and it's not one of his best performances, but he's a cavalry guy who's trying to track down a bunch of renegade Indians, one of whom is known as Ulzana, played by Joaquin Martinez. And it's okay. It's pretty standard. It just happens to have Burt Lancaster in it. And then lastly, I have grown very nostalgic for this movie. Is incredibly not part of the zeitgeist that we have now as it is. Yeah. But you know what? I know it's totally politically incorrect today, but screw it. Burt Reynolds, Chris Christopherson, and Jill Clayburgh in Semi-Tough. You know what? This movie, this is about as football objectification of women and sexist as you are ever going to see in a movie. It is an artifact of its time. 1977.
Michael Ritchie was born in 1938, for God's sakes.
I know. Michael Ritchie, this is who of course did
Fletch, Golden
Fletch,
Child,
and Downhill Racer, and
stuff,
a lot of other stuff. Yeah. But
Cool Runnings.
Look, I'm sorry. This is Burt being as sexist as he wants to be. He just takes his character from Smokey and the Bandit and turns it up to 11, and I'm okay with that. Chris Christopherson just kind of takes his lead. It's all good. It's about football. Not really. It's about men and women and sex.
Yeah.
There it is.
Finish off a few of these. Did you see this wacky movie Greener Grass? Came out this year. Very strange little film.
Oh my gosh. I'll do that in about 30 seconds. So the people who made Greener Grass are out of their minds. This movie, I was on the radio talking about this with Christy Lemire, and Christy loved it.
Yeah, odd movie, but two women drops in the movie with Dawn Luby's freakish sort of suburban set.
It is beyond. It's like they created a world in which nobody talks to each other or behaves like normal people. Yeah. They're like Martians, and someone will have a baby, and it's like, I like your baby. Okay, well, you can have my baby here.
No, really?
And they'll give their child away. And then someone will say, I don't really like our marriage anymore. I'd like to have a divorce. Okay. This kind of stuff.
It's all about bizarre, passive-aggressive
It's
behavior.
just weird. It's like weird suburbia for the sake of being weird. The whole thing is it's meant to just be as weird as it can and not make sense and have everyone just act in a completely counterintuitive, inhuman way. And then at the end, they kind of try to pull a little pathos back. Look, if you just want to see something that's completely from Mars, Greener Grass is your movie. It's well made, but it's totally bizarre.
Yeah. It's standing to the left of just about everything. What you're going to do when the world's on fire? An absolutely fantastic Roberto Minervini film. Yeah. Set in the American South, 2017, when several black men are being killed. And it's just an absolutely devastating film. Black and white. The photography is extraordinary. Most of the actors in the film are from the region, around and about. Very Desika in that way.
A lot of non-actors.
Yeah, a lot of non-actors.
Should have gotten a better theatrical release.
It wouldn't have been great. Reminiscent of Charles Burnett. To Sleep with Anger.
To Sleep with Anger, for sure.
That's the reference that I would give you there. Snatchers is this perfectly insane. It was a series come movie about this young woman who has sex with her boyfriend for the first time. Unbeknowingly to her, her boyfriend has been infected by an alien parasite.
Oh, well, I hate it when that happens.
It's a bummer, and she wakes up the morning a full 9 months pregnant. Well, that's kind of cool. You know, I mean, if you're going to have a baby, you know, you do it Tuesday night, wake up Wednesday morning, 9 months pregnant, and then you have yourself the day that she
like
has
the
in
Richard
this
Stanley film with Nick Cage we talked about.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it pretty much goes in that direction. You look, I'm sure the kids will find that a lot of fun. I thought it was terrible. We have a road trip movie called Winter Flies. Lovely little film, actually, 2018 film. From a couple of years ago, a 14-year-old girl sets out behind the wheel of a stolen car with her buddy, and they head off into the wastelands of of the Czech Republic, and you know, they have adventures. I love little movies like this; they're a lot of fun. And nothing. And what I like the most about this one is nothing bad happens. Nothing bad happens at all. They go on some misadventures, have a little fun. Everybody gets the lady gets her car back, and you know, I hate to give it away, but look, I like it when that happens. The Wave. Look, Justin Long. I don't know what the hell Justin Long did with his career.
I don't either.
Because, you know, I mean, he was a phone guy in the commercials. Then he had himself this movie career for a moment. And now he's just in the most bizarre and weird movies all the damn time. I just don't know what to say. Hanging around with Kevin Smith will do that to you.
Yeah.
If you hang around him too damn long. But here we have it again. Justin Long, he's just an insurance lawyer. He goes out to celebrate a promotion, and everything goes completely south when he takes this hallucinogen drug, and he shifts worlds, and the whole scene becomes something, whatever. Anyway, commentary real, and you're going to need it if you want to know what the hell this movie is about. That's for sure.
Oh, the good liar.
I did not like. I'm sorry. Mirren and I love both of them. McKellen.
I have to say though,
Ian McKellen and Helen
the good
Mirren.
liar.
Yeah.
I have to say, and I'm biased because I keep talking about cinematographers that I know. But Tobias Schliessler, who shot this,
gorgeous,
shot our short.
Yeah,
our shortlisted short for the Oscars, Refugee. So, and he works with. He does everything for.
Oh, the director.
Yeah.
Who directed this damn? I always forget. Bill Condon.
Bill Condon, thank you. You know, like Beauty and the Beast and everything else. So he's Bill Condon's guy, and he does a great job. And I know what Tobias's whole style is, and Tobias is really diverse, and this is very different from what he did for us. So I just think the world of him. If nothing else, see this because it's beautifully shot.
A gorgeous movie. Yeah. I wish the story held together better. It's a con man movie.
With two old actors, which is kind of part of the problem.
You know, exactly. And the question is, who is conning whom?
Yeah,
as they would say in the UK. Special features, a little bit, deleted scenes and whatnot. Not a whole lot.
So 3 other new movies, and I'm going to mention in a mouthful because they're all doing the same thing. Sometimes we'll talk about movies in a batch because it's like, hey, look, we got a bunch of movies with a guy holding a gun on the cover.
Yeah.
So all 3 of these movies have 2 things in common. One, they think that the title will look more exciting if they tilt the lettering. So if the lettering tilts to the right, it makes it look like you're going fast, like you're leaning into the wind. So the lettering tilts. And then the other thing is they all have their stars on the cover with some kind of a motor vehicle. Line of Duty, which tilts, has Aaron Eckhart and a car in the background, and he's a cop. He's a cop. Courage never stands down. Courage never stands down.
What the hell did you do to your career, boy?
Yeah, Aaron, who made
went to school with
my wife. My wife produced the original short films that he was in college. Yes, my wife produced all those short films, and he ate a rabbit in one of them. He actually cooked a dead rabbit and ate it to get all method. Craziest story I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Anyway, here he plays a cop trying to redeem himself. He's fallen from grace. And he's got a chance now when the police chief's daughter is abducted to be the guy that hey, I'm gonna take them down and get my job, redeem myself in the whatever. It's kind of standard. Aaron's a good actor, but I don't know if he's good enough to pull that off. Acceleration. It leans.
They literally in the word. It's in the word.
This is Dolph Lundgren on the cover here, along with Natalie Byrne. I guarantee you, Natalie Byrne's real name is not Byrne.
No,
she changed that one. Natalie Byrne and Dolph Lundgren in Acceleration with a fast car. I love this tagline too. Action has never been this fast. Yeah, it has. It's been faster.
The full $1.50 you paid for
faster.
that.
I know. It's crazy. But your buddy Rampage Jackson's in this too.
Yes, Quentin Rampage.
He's put on some weight.
Yes. Hey, Hey man, it's been 10 years since Bad Guys.
My goodness,
UFC fighter Rampage Jackson. Rampage also not his name.
He's not in the he's not in the ring anymore.
Your Rampage is a ridiculous bazillionaire. You know why?
Why?
Owns one of those EA Sports teams.
No kidding.
There's
money in that.
Oh, dude, so much money.
Crazy.
So much money, and he's a millionaire 15 times over.
Oh my goodness, what a great investment that was. Well, live and learn. I didn't know that. Anyway, this is also about a kidnapping, just like the other one. Go figure. And here, Dolph Lundgren plays an organized crime chieftain who's double crossed by Natalie Byrne. And
might be her name.
Yeah, so he kidnaps her son, and then it gets all ugly from there, goes sideways. And then the last one is The Courier. And the tagline here is not so great. From a producer of The Darkest Hour. From a producer of The Darkest Hour?
Yeah, the line producer.
So oh, look, it has Gary Oldman in it, who will literally do anything if you write a check for his quote.
Yeah.
So, and he's got but Gary Oldman's an eye patch.
Yeah. So, he's a pirate.
The Courier, from a producer of The Darkest Hour, starring Gary Oldman with an eye patch. That's what this is.
Oh, man. I don't know why they think they can buy a legitimate movie.
I don't know.
By sticking a once was a movie star in it. It does not work.
I just don't know. Gary Oldman will pretty much do anything.
I like Gary.
He's great in everything he does.
I like Gary, but
But it's like what was the thing that he was in with where he played?
The thing on the boat?
Yeah, what was the thing with what's his name that we always make fun of, the Scottish actor who'll also do anything. From what? I can't. From
what Scottish actor?
The Scottish actor who does all the America's Falling, New York is Falling.
Oh, Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler, thank you.
Who Sherm sees on the hill.
It was some Gerard Butler submarine movie where Gary Oldman is in there, and he's like he's an ambassador, and then like the whole thing, it made absolutely no sense. I can't even. Anyway,
we're making fun of these guys. These guys, Gary Oldman makes
so
$500,000 for every movie he's in.
I know.
Not a penny less than $500,000. So
it's ridiculous. Anyway, so this movie, look, I mean, it's called The Courier, and it's about a courier. It's, I mean, What are you going to do? He's a crime boss, and he's got an enemy who's going to testify against him, and so he needs to kill this guy. And then, Olga Kurilenko, for some reason, shows up with a motorcycle and says, "I'll be the courier." And, there's a whole bomb thing. None of it really makes any sense.
I know the reason, because she looks good in black leather.
That's true.
That's the reason.
All very, very true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is it for this week. We are out of time, and we will be back next week with hopefully better movies and a lot of fun stuff. But there's a lot of good stuff that we have backlogged too. So we'll cover some foreign stuff next week. We'll prioritize the foreign films. Really good stuff that's come in over the last few weeks. So we will see you next week. Thank you.